Alright, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This is HD, and it's time for game number 2 between Huck and MoonGlade. This is once again a best of 5 or best of 7 series. Still haven't checked it out, but it is going to be Protoss versus Zerg, and the map has been chosen. It is Metalopolis, which kind of tends to make me feel like this is not a loser picks the next map, because what Protoss would pick Metalopolis against a Zerg player for game number 2, especially considering Huck, of course, lost game number 1. So we'll see how that works out this game. Once again, these players are not spawning in the close positions, neither are they spawning in the cross positions. This is actually kind of the medium position, as I would call it, which kind of means that the Zerg doesn't have a super big advantage as he may have, but he doesn't have a very big disadvantage either. So it's kind of a balanced position for both these players. And the nice thing here is actually the Protoss. Oh, look at that! Huck is going to bring his probe over right as the Overlord moves in, and he's going to see that Overlord. So now he's going to redirect this probe, which was originally going to scout over here, and he's just going to bring it over to the Zerg base right away. So very nice right there. That's a small little trick. If you're a Protoss or a Terran and you're playing against Zerg, you can anticipate the Overlord and you can spot it as it comes in. So Huck is he's not gonna be too happy or too disappointed about these spawn points. Remember that a Zerg player can still capture all these expansions over here pretty easily, but he has to worry a little bit more about air from the Protoss player. And air these days is quite difficult to deal with if you are Zerg. And it looks like Huck here is a little bit pissed off about all the streamers, which apparently are lagging the game. So the streamers are leaving. So apparently this is some kind of a tournament series. I'll have to look it up and find out what series this exactly is. I think we just had a gateway being canceled here. Oh, so Huck here is gonna try to throw up a pylon and build cannons right next to MoonGlade's natural expansion. This is a very aggressive play that a lot of Protoss players like to use, and it forces MoonGlade to pull off all these drones. Huck can continually spam pylons. His probe has gotten stuck, though. He needs to get it out of there. He has a second probe here, though, so that's okay. This pylon is going to get canceled at the very last moment. Huck is going to retreat the probe that is down in the red. More drones pulling off for MoonGlade. MoonGlade, all he has to do is wait for the pylon to come up, and he can warp in cannons. His forge is complete. Huck here, very wise. He canceled his gateway and decided to throw down a forge because he scouted the fast expansion from MoonGlade, and this is probably why MoonGlade doesn't like to fast expand against Huck, because Huck gets down and dirty with it. He'll throw up cannons in your face, and this is putting the Zerg players so far behind, because remember, Protoss players can cancel their buildings as they're warping in as soon as they're about to die and recuperate most of the costs, and it's all fine and dandy, but the Zerg player loses all of this mining time. Look at the income per minute. It's 700 to 140. Finally, Huck cancels all of his buildings, but at a huge cost for the Zerg. The Zerg has to play a lot of catch up now, but the nice thing for MoonGlade is he held off. He has 2 bases now, whereas the Protoss player only has 1. So in the long run, this actually played out pretty well for MoonGlade, but in the short run, the Protoss player is slightly ahead right now. So we'll see what happens. If we check the income tab, we can see that both players are dead even in economy. The Zerg is going to start to pick up pace here as he's got 2 bases. It looks like Huck here may be thinking about doing something sneaky with this probe. He's actually gonna, he's gonna build another pylon, but I think, oh no, MoonGlade is not gonna see it. Even though the creep is spreading, it's going, but I think that's the limit of the creep that extends from the hatchery. So MoonGlade is not going to see this pylon warping in here. And what is Huck going to build? He's going to build a cannon. He's going to build cannons right outside of the vision of the creep. This is so dirty. I didn't even know Huck was capable of doing something like this. He's going to build cannons right outside. Oh, but the creep finally just sees those cannons warping in, and now MoonGlade is gonna, in response, build 4 spine crawlers to defend against those 3 photon cannons are warping in. This is a super aggressive series as we've seen so far. We can see back at the base, Huck is pretty bolted down. No Zerglings are gonna be able to run past this kind of a wall. And it looks like Huck is even transitioning into double gas. So we may actually see Stargate once again. I think this time it's going to be a little bit more successful. We can see the cannons warping in before the spine crawlers. They're starting to work. They worked out that first spine crawler. Now they're going to take out the extractor. Very nice play from Huck. The spine crawlers finally morph in, which really doesn't make much of a difference. MoonGlade didn't really need to invest in these spine crawlers. But I guess he really wants to get rid of these cannons. He's going to inch them forward. They're going to take a couple of pot shots, but eventually the spine crawlers should be able to poke these cannons down. Now, the reason why I say MoonGlade didn't really need to throw down spine crawlers is because the creep naturally prevents photon cannons from inching forward. You can't really build anything on creep. And the only thing that MoonGlade loses at this early stage in the game is these 2 Vespene gases, but he doesn't really need that much gas. He's not even on layer tech yet. He can get the 2 gases back at the main instead. But hey, if he really wants to get rid of these cannons, more power to him. He's going to go ahead and do that. It looks like he only was able to pick off 1, and that's going to pretty much be a stalemate right there. So, that's pretty much it for that little frontier battle. We can see MoonGlade has a little bit more economy. Now, do we have Stargates coming up? Remember, there was a lot of gas going in early on for Huck. Huck was trying to get as much gas as he can. It looks like an Overlord is going to come in here. It's going to see 4 gateways coming out, as well as +1 weapons on the forge. It looks like finally MoonGlade's going to take out those cannons with a combination of spine crawlers, lings, and a queen. And so now MoonGlade knows that it is going to be some kind of a delayed 4-gate with +1 weapons. This is an incredible timing by Huck, but MoonGlade very wisely moved in that Overlord, and that's really showing how important using an Overlord is. Just sacrificing 100 minerals. It's a floating pylon, but it's so worth it because it'll save you from any kind of an all-in attack. It shows what the Protoss player is up to. And Huck now, Huck's hand has been revealed. MoonGlade knows what's up. I do believe that MoonGlade saw the no, he didn't see the Nexus going down. So the thing now is MoonGlade is going to be prepared for an all-in attack. He's going to be prepared for 4 gateways +1 weapons, but he doesn't realize that Huck is actually just using the gateways to secure his natural expansion. So right now, what MoonGlade needs to do is he needs to run in some kind of scouting units, and that's exactly what he does. He sees the Nexus. He knows now that it's not going to be an all-in attack. The 400 minerals have been invested into a Nexus, so he knows he doesn't have to be too scared. That's a very heavy sentry army, which roaches can deal with that quite easily, and MoonGlade, the good Zerg player that he is, he's already got great creep spread going on. He's actually going to engage off the creep, which I don't agree with. The roaches could get caught out of position here. Not the best force fields from Huck though, which is very surprising. Huck usually the force field master. That didn't work out too well for Huck, and now he's got to fall back. Oh man, I don't like this at all. The roaches are inching forward. Even the queen's coming to join the party. I think these sentries are going to find themselves caught in a very bad position. They're going to have to limp their way back home. And thankfully for Huck, the roaches do not have speed quite yet. In fact, speed not even on the way yet. So this battle is getting quite intense. Hatchery going up at the 3rd base for the Zerg player MoonGlade. And MoonGlade, just posturing, takes out the Statue of Liberty, and he's going to fall back to his natural expansion. So he's just doing a little bit of aggressive tactics, and he's not actually going to commit himself. He's going to fall back now, and it looks like he's going to transition into Roach Hydra, whereas Huck, scared about the Mass Roach army, is going to try to get a robotics facility down. He's going to try to get some Immortals out. So nice aggression from both these players early on in the game. We can see now the Zerg player, MoonGlade, a little bit higher in army and a little bit higher in economy. So Huck has a little bit of catching up to do. We're going to go ahead and switch over to MoonGlade's player cam here. He's actually at 168 average APM, which is quite high for a high-level Zerg player at MoonGlade's level. Very nice there. Look, notice, guys, that he's spreading the creep. This is one of the most important things about playing Zerg well. You need to be able to spread your creep towards your opponent's base. And because both these players have spawned in the positions they have, notice that the majority of the creep tumors are being planted in a southernwards position. They're being planted so that they reach over to the Protoss natural. And what Huck wants to do is he wants to use his observers. He wants to not allow the creep to reach over to his natural base. Because if that creep gets too close, then it really makes this kind of Zerg superhighway, and it becomes very difficult for Protoss players to defend against, and it makes it difficult for Protoss players to engage on the creep. So Huck's doing a nice job here. He's preventing the creep, he's preventing the changelings. He's doing a great job right now, and it looks like he's starting to get pretty comfortable here, and he's going to start to inch his way forward. Now this is going to be the battle we've been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen. MoonGlade, a ton of roaches. It doesn't look like MoonGlade wants to engage off the creep though, and that's wise. You never want to engage off creep when you can help it, because those force fields will cut those speedless roaches in half. And Huck, on the other hand, doesn't want to engage on the creep. So he's going to bring this observer forward. He's going to start to pick off those creep tumors like I was talking about. We do have Hydras on the way right now, which is exactly the unit MoonGlade needs right now against this mass gateway composition. Hydras are extremely good against mass stalkers, mass sentries, and even a mixture of zealots. So you guys can see 14 Hydralisks on the way. That's going to make this Zerg army much stronger. And as you guys can see, MoonGlade is way ahead right now, 150 over 109. So wow, Huck is just getting out macroed at this point, which is very surprising. Huck is one of those players that, you know, I think is one of the best right now. I wouldn't have expected him to be outclassed this easily. But things are not going so well in Huckland. We have a Spire coming up right now, which is going to deal with the Colossus when they do come out. Right now, though, Huck is just primarily focused on Immortals. He does have a Robotic Support Bay coming out, but right now his primary focus is Immortals. He knows there's a ton of Roaches, and all those Roaches, man, you need Immortals to deal with that. But eventually, Huck is going to want to transition into Colossus, and we do have the Bay coming out. So that Colossus is obviously, the Colossus is going to obviously be able to deal with the Hydralisk very easily. And it's just going to come down to a macro stage game now. As you guys can see, both these players are just transitioning into late game Protoss versus Zerg, which, as you guys can see, 2 Colossus on the way, extended Thermal Lance being chrono boosted. There we go. It was chrono boosting nothing for a second, but the Thermal Lance is now on the way. So Huck is starting to transition into that late game. So is the Zerg player, and we do want to see eventually some Corruptors coming out for MoonGlade to deal with those Colossus. So eventually MoonGlade's going to get those Corruptors coming out. He does have the gold expansion coming up. So the Zerg player is now on 4 bases. The Protoss player is currently on 3. So both players really just kind of considered even in terms of economy. And I actually don't like this mass Hydra army from MoonGlade. That's a little bit too many Hydras for my taste. And if you run into too many Colossus, well, those Colossus are going to do a lot of damage. But I think that MoonGlade might be trying to go for a timing attack here before the Colossus come out. Note, I don't think there are any Colossus. There's only 2. So if those Hydras can hit before the 3rd and 4th Colossus come out, then MoonGlade can do some significant damage right now. But he's wasting his time, is diddling around. It looks like an Overlord here is just going to get picked off. The 3rd and 4th Colossus are almost out. They're being chrono boosted, and I don't know if this attack is going to work. So yeah, MoonGlade, he's going to have to fall back, and he's going to have to reposition. Now, this is the situation that a Zerg player doesn't want to be in. He's already maxed. He's got 200, and he's, yeah, there we go. He's going to start to kill off his own army units. This is what I was talking about. If he's maxed, he cannot get Corruptors to deal with the Colossus. So he just killed off his own units, and he's building 10 Corruptors right now. He had to free up his own supply, and that was pretty smart. So he's going to get Corruptors so that he can deal with the Colossus. So, hey, that's one thing that I've actually been kind of a little antsy about. They should, I feel like Zerg should have some kind of an upgrade to get up to maybe 240 or 250 supply. Maybe not. But oftentimes when you max out really early on, you don't have the composition to deal with late game Protoss balls, and you kind of have to kill off your own army. But right now, MoonGlade sacrificing his own army. He's got a ton of Corruptors. I think he's got a great composition to deal with the Mass Gateway mixed in with the Colossus. The Corruptors here going straight after the Colossus. Look for corruption to be used on the Colossus as well. One Colossus gets picked off. Very nice. And those force fields not the best there for Huck. Usually Huck known for slicing the army in half and then dealing with half of it in the front. But that wasn't very good at all for Huck. Not at all up to Huck's standard. And I think this is looking pretty bad for Huck at this point. Do note that MoonGlade has 5,000 minerals saved up and 1,000 gas. Huck has 700 and 600, so Huck is really running low on minerals. Once again, not the best force fields. I don't know why Huck is just spamming those force fields. All of his Colossus getting picked off. This is the battle I was talking about. Those force fields were a little bit better, but all the Colossus have been destroyed, so now it's just Stalkers versus pure Hydras, which isn't the best situation unless Huck can blink his Stalkers, which he's doing very well right there. Blinking the weak ones to the back and then blinking them forward when he wants to be aggressive. So Huck coming out on top in that battle very nicely. But remember the Zerg player, this is where the Zerg strength really kicks in. When they have so many resources banked up, they can re-establish their army so easily. And so MoonGlade is going to just abuse that to the maximum. He's just going to rebuild his army very, very easily. And look at that. Once again, the Zerg army is maxed at 200. And we do have Infestation Pit coming down. So eventually we're going to see some Hive Tech units. I would love to see some Brood Lords in late game pro games. We don't see that all too often. The Protoss player Huck here struggling to rebuild his army. Look at his mineral and gas supply. It's so down and so low. He's not even maxed right now. And this is once again battle number 2. Remember, the Zerg player can afford to trade armies, and he's going to just push forward with all of his Corruptors. Attack the Colossus. He can afford to trade his army to take out those Colossus. Remember, the #1 danger, the #1 nightmare for every Zerg is dealing with a maxed out Colossus army. You never want to let your Protoss get a bunch of Colossus. So MoonGlade did that very well. He took out all the Colossus, and now his Hydras and Roaches dealing with the Gateway army. Huck struggling for survival right now, but things are looking really, really bad. More Stalkers warping in here. It looks like he is going to hold his gold nexus, which he needs to hold, absolutely needs to hold this position, or he's going to lose this game. But things are looking very dire. We have 17 more Roaches coming out for MoonGlade, and MoonGlade is just going to continue to pound this position. We can see that he's pushing forward here. The Stalkers have been forced to retreat. Even the Corruptors using Contaminate on the, Corruption on the Stalkers, which increases the damage they take by 20%. So every little bit really does hurt. This is Huck's player camera view right here. I don't know what he's doing. He's trying to warp in more forces, but hey, he's got to focus on the army out here. His Colossus has been picked off, and things are looking very, very bad. I think he's going to lose this position at the gold. His probes are forced to retreat. This is MoonGlade's player cam view, completely focused on taking out that gold nexus. And this is just a one-sided battle. This is a street straight to Loserville. I think Huck is he's gonna go down 0-2 in this series, which is absolutely not good for our Protoss champion here. MoonGlade is pushing forward. He is at 200. He's got 2,000 minerals, 500 gas, a ton of Roaches, a ton of Hydras. Huck trying to re-establish his army. He's got a bunch of Stalkers and Immortals. Not really the best army composition to deal with this. Can he do it? He's blinking his Stalkers back. The Corruptors even using Corruption on whatever Stalkers they can. And I think the continual stream of Zerg reinforcements for the Swarm. Huck is going to GG out of here, and MoonGlade is going to win game number 2, which, now Huck is getting really pissed off. He says cast from the replays because there's too much lag in the live game, and he's having trouble microing. So we're going to move on to game number 3, and this has been a pretty damn good series so far. So I hope you guys enjoyed this broadcast. So far, MoonGlade up 2-0. We're going to move on to game number 3. HD signing out.